Welcome to the Bros Talking Soccer podcast, a podcast where three brothers generally talk about what's happening in American and European soccer. It is day 16 of the 2019 World Cup, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Dave Knittel. I am here with our friend Matt Lefler because my two brothers are off doing things. Matt, hello. How are you doing?
I am fan-freaking-tastic, Dave. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing well as well. We enjoyed our day off. I probably enjoyed it a little bit too much yesterday and still feeling slightly hungover, but I'm going to power through this. And yeah, I'm excited to chat about the matches. I think you and I can, especially the early one, wasn't exactly the most attention grabbing or enthralling match. And then the second one, for whatever reason, we just weren't feeling it as well. But we're going to talk about these matches. And so we're going to bring the energy, we're going to bring the heat as we discuss them. Before we talk about them, I wanted to give a couple quick plugs for our partners. We're a part of the Stadium Scene Network. Go to stadiumscene.tv if you are into sports. If you like soccer, if you like basketball, hockey, whatever, they have all kinds of content for you. Podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, all available on stadiumscene.tv. We are also a part of the Big Heads Media Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for all kinds of podcasts about anything you could possibly think of. They got stuff on there: fantasy football, hockey, crime, history, all different kinds of stuff. So go check all of that out on Big Heads Media. Before we talk about the games, let's get to our Jeff question. Jeff has been joining us every live stream, so we appreciate it. Anyone out there, if you're just listening to the podcast, make sure to come check us out live. We record live on YouTube. You can interact with us as we record. Jeff's question for today was, which three people associated with football would you like to, number one, go to a match with, number two, watch a match with at your home on the TV, and number three, watch with in a pub on a big screen? So one person for each. Matt, who are your three people?
All right. So the first one that I would go to a match with is definitely a homer pick. I would go with my daughter because we could just sit there and rag on the teams because she is so much more tactically astute than I am. She can rag on me as I'm ragging on the teams because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's absolutely it's honestly so fun. We go there and she'll go, "Dad, you don't know what the hell you're talking about." So this, and I go, "Oh, that's cool." And then I'll start to see what she's talking about, and it's great. Let's see, who would I? I will go to the pub one next. So I would no, I thought about doing Zlatan, but he doesn't drink. So what I would do is I would pick a prominent player's wife or girlfriend who likes to party. Okay. Now the reason why is not dubious, or at least not dubious in the manners that you might think. Now the reason why is because I would love to hang out and be like Grandpa Matt or something like that, and then to have them literally dish the dirt on all of the other players on the team or people in the league. I think that would be fantastic to hear that. My house, Beckham. I mean, I just hang out, have my wife walk into the room, have her leave the room, like kind of a little overheated because Beckham's so handsome. Maybe catch her staring at his tattoos or something. I don't know. I just think that would be a really fun thing to do.
All right. I love it. I love it. Very, very creative ones. All right. So mine, who I'm taking to a game with me or going to a game with, would be Jimmy Conrad. I think that he's, I guess had like a 12 or 15-year career, former U.S. international. He's tons of fun on social media, got a lot of connections, and seems like an awesome, fun person. I feel like he would be awesome to go to a match with. Who I would like to have over my house would be Bobby Warshaw. Bobby Warshaw is, he's like an analyst for MLS right now, but he sees the game in a very different way, or just a very tactical way. And he's always bringing up really interesting observations or looking at the game from a different perspective. And I feel like, if we were at my home, we could have really in-depth discussions. So that would be that. And then pub, 100% Jurgen Klopp. I feel like he is a ton of fun, pounding beers at the pub, just hanging out, singing songs, and just loving life. So those would be my three people. Excellent question, Jeff. We always appreciate that. Matt, let's talk about Germany versus Nigeria. That was our early match today, and Germany prevailed 3-0 in this one. Overarching thoughts on this game?
My overarching thought is, do we really have to talk about this game, Dave?
Yeah, I know. So Germany did what Germany does, and they just manhandled, I guess is the right way to say it. They just won the game. Nigeria never really had any chances to get into this, and Germany's through to the quarterfinals because it's Germany and they always do well in tournament play. Let's for the sake of this podcast, let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
So Nigeria was pressing high to start, but they were pressing high in not the greatest shape, and so they were kind of stretched out, and their back line I think needed to be much more condensed. The way that Norway was pressing and just their shape was a lot better in the second match, and I know that's kind of comparing, a team that is much further along in their development, but Nigeria is improving. We were talking about before we went live, their manager that was appointed is starting to institute more tactical sort of awareness for Nigeria. And you can see their concepts. It's just not as tight and buttoned up as other teams here. And that was very noticeable in this one. I thought Germany needed to do a better job of having weak side width on offense. Everybody was condensed into the half of the pitch, and there just wasn't any width. As the game wore on, Huth started to pull wide a little bit more, and they started to get a little bit more of that. But overall, Germany, especially in the early stages, it was just way too tight in the center of the park and on the one side of the pitch that had the ball. So that was something that I noted. Germany on their corners, they were playing short and or just not beating the first player in the air. And it was frustrating, number one, because Germany clearly had the advantage. But on the opposite side of the pitch, Nigeria, I've been harping on this the entire World Cup. Nigeria still did not know how to defend short corners and were only sending one player out to defend them. I was losing my mind over here, yelling at the TV in a match that I didn't really care about. But it's just at this point, how do they not know to defend short corners? Matt, any thoughts on this?
Well, didn't we notice, one of us noticed that Germany was playing like really narrow in a previous match, and they didn't start really have any joy going forward until they played more expansively? So this seems to be a thing with them where they try to like play really narrow on the pitch on offense to start with, which is weird. Um
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's something to keep an eye out for moving forward because Germany's moving on. So that's good good observation.
so yeah, the Nigeria thing, with Dennerby being their coach, you can tell that they clearly, I just have to get this off my chest. Like, they clearly have some good ideas. They clearly are trying to follow, a system of play rather than just running around and like kind of ganging up on people. Um, and being super physical. They're trying to rely on being a bit more possession oriented and so on and so forth. I just think that it might simply be a thing like you were saying before where they just aren't that far along in their development. It's you can only work on so many things, and that's probably what the issue is.
Yeah, I think so as well. So Nigeria was in a 4-3-3 shape in their attack, and they were in some sort of variation of a 5-3-2, 4-4-2 in defense. And next thing I noted was that Germany gets a goal. So in the 20th minute, Magul finally actually serves the ball into the box on a corner kick, and Ihuzu, I think she was a center midfielder for Nigeria, just is marking Pop, and anyone who's watching the YouTube videos can see me doing air quotes
So many air
because it
quotes.
was one of the loosest marking jobs you're ever going to see. Now, Nigeria more or less was in a zone, so you can understand that, but they were having Ihuzu man marking Pop, but she just didn't do anything to put her off. The ball gets served in. All the Nigerian defenders miss it on the corner kick. And so those two errors, Pop has a header where she doesn't even need to jump on a corner kick inside the 6-yard box, directs it into the far post. Now, on this one, Huth is standing in front of the goalkeeper, the Nigerian goalkeeper, and is in her vision, but Pop heads it kind of way out of the goalkeeper's reach. I don't think she was getting there anyways. This went to VAR, and the goal ultimately stood. Matt, what did you think about this?
About the VAR specifically, or just kind of the goal in general?
So both, but I was more asking about the VAR, but thoughts on the goal as well.
So I didn't really have a problem with the VAR ruling. It just seemed like that's kind of the way it goes. But I do understand that technically she could have been construed as affecting the play of the keeper by blocking line of sight. Yeah, okay. But isn't there somebody always kind of around the keeper on corners? Was this a free kick? This is a free kick, wasn't it? Not a corner kick.
I thought it was a corner kick. Maybe it was. I think it was a corner kick just because I
Right.
remember them specifically saying she couldn't be offside on a corner kick.
But the thing is they were saying that she was offside once Pop played the ball. So
Exactly.
that's right. Um, I'm okay with this being a goal, frankly. One thing I noticed too is that Pop comes in from outside of the zone because Nigeria sets up with like that six player zone, kind of near the top of the box, and it's like with people standing there, they really, it's like, okay, I'm doing my job, and then if anybody comes into my area, maybe I'll get them, but nobody's looking around to see if anybody's going to come in from anywhere else. They're all staring at the ball. So that's what.
Which is fine if they then go win the ball. Like when you're in a zone, your job is to win the ball. That is the most critical thing. And the Nigerian defenders don't. It flies over their head and she's standing there for an easy header. And I'm in agreement. I'm okay with this not being an offside call here because I don't think the keeper was saving it anyways. Anything else?
No.
All right. 25th minute, we get another VAR situation. So Noah Buoku ends up going to kick and clear the ball, and I think she kicks Magul at the end of it. She, I think, gets the slightest touch on the ball and just drives her cleats right into Magul's knee, and Magul goes down. I don't think that this was even called a foul at the time. Goes to VAR, and then a penalty is awarded. Matt, what did you think about this call? Did you think it was a penalty?
Oh yeah. I mean, if at the very least it was dangerous play and it should have been a yellow card and it was a yellow card and it was in the box, and so yeah, definitely a penalty.
I'm in agreement. And this is something that we preach on this. All we want is consistency from officials. And we've seen this in other matches where defenders, if they have reckless clearances and they make contact with opposition players, it's called a penalty. And they've been consistent with this. So I'm in agreement. This was a penalty. The Brits steps up, takes the pen low into the right corner. Good penalty. Germany's up 2-0. And I mean, the game's a wrap basically at that point. VAR was taking, just the flow out of the game. We had a number of instances in this one that, again, the reviews just take a really long time, or you don't exactly know what's going on. The officials got their finger to the ear. I would love to have a situation where the referees get microphones and they can at least, the way that we see it in, I think rugby does this. I know the NFL does this, where the officials can communicate with the people in the stadium as well as the TV audience to let them know what the heck is going on. So I would like to see something like that. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I also think that they're going to have to find ways to streamline the VAR process for like the ref to sit there for a minute and a half or 2 minutes and then have to run over to a monitor to make a decision. It's it's awful, honestly. Just sitting there watching, going, ugh. It made
Yeah.
an already kind of tiresome game more so. I mean, the game was really ugly. It just nobody had any flow. If any flow came, it was from Germany. It was frustrating to watch Nigeria try because they really were trying and they really were attempting to execute their plan, but they aren't good enough.
I'm in agreement. Matt, can you do me a favor? Can you turn up your gain on your mic? So
Sure.
we got some comments from YouTube that your volume's way down again.
That's
Um,
weird. Is that better?
yeah. I think so. Yeah. And that's going to make my editing life a little bit easier as well. So
Yeah, because
thank
I've
you for
turned it up
that.
quite a bit. So yeah, thanks for the
Okay.
comments.
Yeah, of course. And okay, okay, we'll get to some of those other comments because that's for the second match. But thank you, Patrick and Jeff, for being here live with us on YouTube. Close out the first half here. The last thing I wanted to note here is that I thought Nigeria was actually the stronger side for the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes of the half, and also the
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 minutes of the half. And so Germany turned it on when they needed to, but there were lulls in play where Nigeria had opportunities, and if they were more clinical, maybe this goes into half 2-1 instead of 2-0, and it's a different ball game. But it doesn't, and it ends 2-0. I don't even know. I have some notes here. The game really started to open up as Nigeria started to attack. There really wasn't any great chances for Nigeria through 80 minutes. 68th minute, the Brits hits a nice long ball. So this was, I didn't think Germany was doing this enough, the long diagonal pass. And that's something I preach, almost every game. I feel like teams could be doing this more. And so I was nice to see that. I think it was ultimately called offside and it didn't lead to anything, but I thought they needed to do more of that. 82nd minute, Germany gets their third goal. It's just a terrible giveaway by Nigeria. Misplaced pass back by Allende. And you can see her because they did a slow-mo replay. She's looking down for a good second or two before she plays the ball. And as she's looking down, her center back is moving out wide to provide support for her. And she plays it to where the center back used to be. Nobody's home except for Schuler on Germany. Easy first time finish, far post, 3-0. And that was that. Any other thoughts on this, Matt?
The only thing I can think of is I actually really hope that there continues to be funding for women's football in Nigeria, because watching them try to play an organized game and then watching kind of sort of the evolution and watching their passing accuracy kind of gradually, it didn't go up much. It was what, like 54%, but one game they were at 50%. Just seeing them try to execute a game plan was interesting, from I guess from like an analysis standpoint, but going forward, if they can get their act together and actually get technical development, imagine if they were anywhere near, as technically advanced as some of the other teams. I'm not even saying as technically as good. With how fast and how strong they are, they would be kind of a sight to behold. So I'm looking forward to Nigeria in the future, just not right now.
Yeah, that's a really good call out, Matt. Can you do me a favor? If you have any more gain in your mic,
sure.
Can you turn it up a little bit more?
What's going on? Is that better?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, that's much better.
That's maximum.
That's great. That's great. And last things I wanted to note from this is that Germany didn't kill off the game with possession the way I would have expected aside of their quality. They were still really open. It looked like they were going for more goals, really opening themselves up, which was really interesting. You would have thought, especially a 3-0, but even a 2-0, they would have been shutting it down. Still, Germany hasn't conceded a goal in this World Cup, and it is impressive. They're moving on to the next round where they are going to face, I'm not sure. Do you know off the top of your head, Matt? You know what? Actually, we'll preview it. So they're moving on, and Nigeria's going home. Very well done by Nigeria to get out of the group. First time in 20 years, but the German side takes care of them and are moving on in the knockout rounds. Let's talk about Norway versus Australia now, Matt. You go with that?
I am. Hold on. Let me test something really quickly. So it might get really loud.
Okay.
That make any difference at all?
I think you're still good volume.
Oh, okay. Okay. It didn't do what I thought it did. All right. Thanks.
All right, cool. On air, technical, editing, producing stuff. So that's always great to do. I should have been better with this. Okay, so Norway versus Australia. That ends 1-1. Norway advances on penalty kicks. So first off, I was having all kinds of issues with Sling. That's my television provider. So I missed the first 3 minutes. And then throughout the first 30 minutes, I was serious lag and it was tough to watch. But Matt, did you have any thoughts or anything that I missed drastically? I think Kerr had an early chance, right?
Yeah, it was just the early chance by Kerr. It was kind of a sudden buildup, and then she gets the ball in the box, makes a quick turn, and then fires it wide left of the post. It was a really good chance. It just didn't get finished. Like, it was a really good chance. It did not miss.
And I saw a replay of it, and she should have hit the target at the very least. So I agree with that. Refs. So before we continue in this one, Patrick has an interesting comment here about VAR. He says that referees should not be a part of the process once it goes to VAR review. So I think he means center official should not have final call, and it should be, I guess, a fifth official at this point. Matt, what do you think about that concept?
So I was actually questioning that as well. If it's a clear and obvious mistake, then definitely the VAR head official, however it was, just to streamline the game. Now, if it's something where it's a bit more of a gray area, then probably you should have the center official look at it because they know why they made the call that they did. But I'm thinking that at some point we're going to have to go just VAR overturns the call without it taking 4 minutes. So
I think that's spot on. We see it with the offside calls, which is more black and white, where the referees sometimes don't go check it out unless there is nuance there. I don't want the center official removed from the process. I think that it is really important to have them involved. It does need to be sped up, but refereeing, as much as we want it to be objective, it is subjective. There are interpretations of the laws. And so if you're getting another official to rule in the match, I don't like that. And so I think it should all rest with the center official, the final say. So it's an interesting thought, Patrick, but I'm just going to ever so slightly disagree with you there. Getting back to this Australia-Norway match, Australia looked to be the better side early. I thought that they were pressing higher and looking to be forcing things a little bit more. Norway was pressing only in certain situations, and I thought that they were smart about their press, specifically when they turned the ball over when they were in the attacking third. So when Australia got possession in their defensive third and there was maybe a little bit of chaos, Norway had a pretty good press. But beyond that, more or less, they were falling back into a very compact 4-4-2 shape. And kind of like I was touching on with Nigeria, it was so tight. You could see the formation 4-4-2. It was just very well done. There was maybe 30 yards of space, if that, between the back line and the front line. And that's what you want to see from a defending team comparing to Nigeria, which was, again, more stretched out. So it was interesting to just watch Norway's shape from that perspective. I thought early Australia had an over-reliance on Kerr, and that might be just a theme of them, but they were just crossing the ball in when she was just in no-win situations. And I know she's very, very good, but she was in 1v2s constantly, and they were just trying to get her the ball, which, again, I understand to an extent, but I thought that they needed to be smarter about all that. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
So I agree completely, but this has kind of been Australia's sort of modus operandi for a while. I don't know if with the new coach that tactics wildly changed. It did seem like Australia's attack was better under the previous coach, even though there were apparently issues. We don't need to get into that. That was kind of rehashed a long time ago. One thing I did want to say about Norway's defending and how compact they were. The interesting thing is the moment that Australia would get the ball, you would say, Norway would drop into this really compact formation, and everything was to try to force them out wide and then to slow play down so they could set up. And I thought that was an interesting way to defend, because I'd never really thought about it, because really what Australia wants to do is they want to counter. They want to counter quickly. And then just by slowing play down for them, they lost kind of one of their biggest weapons. And I mean, Sam Kerr's hugely effective on a counter. She's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they brought it up on the broadcast that Australia was changing their tactics to not be quite as counterattacking. And I think you could see an element of the old tactics still being involved with the counters versus, them trying to slow build. And there was these weird situations where they didn't know if they should get stretched out or if they should try to slow build. 31st minute, Norway gets their goal. And this actually all starts with an excellent 1v1 defending play by Mjelde, the center back and captain of Norway, on Sam Kerr. So Kerr is in one-on-one with Mjelde, and Mjelde just has an excellent tackle. The ball eventually gets taken by Norway. They work it out of the back. Ball gets played into Engen, who might be my new favorite player. I really, really like her game.
Yeah, she had a good game.
Yeah. Specifically her, she always is willing to take the ball under pressure, and she never looks like she's panicking, even in situations where a turnover could be very, very bad. She's just willing to do that for a young player, 21 years old in the center of the park. I just really like to see that. And on this specific play, she gets the ball, she's under a little bit of pressure, and she's toward the near side of the pitch. She plays, I think it's a one-time, if not, it's a second touch ball, curved around the defense out wide to Savik. And Savik does a really good job of keeping the ball in play. And then as the ball is bouncing, she curls in a through ball behind the Australian defense perfectly into the path of Herlovsen, who does well to settle it. The ball isn't rolling, and so it's not Herlovsen's fault, but it's not like controlled the way that the ideal way that you would want it to be. And the reason I'm saying that is that she does incredibly well to not blast this over the top, because as the ball is bouncing, it's very easy to mishit your shot, and she does incredibly well to finish around Williams into the near post. And again, this is just a really, really good goal all around by Norway. Any thoughts on this goal, Matt?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was just really well executed. That's all I got. You pretty much explained it.
All right. Like it. Already talked about Engen, my new favorite player. 42nd minute, Norway had really been in control up until this point, and we have a VAR decision here. So Kerr pulls wide and sends in a cross basically to no one. Tori's daughter is there, and she uses her chest/shoulder, and her arm was kind of tucked in, and she moves her arm. If you're watching on YouTube, she moves it like this. or I guess it would have been this way. No, would have been this way. And
left, yeah.
so the ball hits kind of upper chest / arm area, and the referee calls a penalty. And you could kind of see why the referee did it, especially with the movement of her body, even with her arm being tight. But then the call gets reversed. Matt, what did you think about this being a penalty versus not a penalty?
So I didn't really think it was a penalty. She was clearly putting her arm behind her back, and it was pretty obvious that the ball did go off her shoulder. However, the vantage point of the center ref, I completely understood why she made the call, because it did look like from that vantage point, when the camera was in that spot, it did look like it kind of went off her upper arm, but it really went off, her chest, kind of shoulder, like the bottom of her shoulder, chest area. So I thought that in the end they got it right. That's what VAR is for. But again, that took a long time.
And yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one. Goes to half. Norway is up 1-0. Second half starts, and the first thing I noted was the 52nd minute. There's a throw in by Australia. There's a good flick by Kerr, and then they have a 3v2 situation out wide. And I think it's Rosso has the ball, and she just doesn't hit the greatest cross. And Ford on the far post. On the far post, I got Norwegian fjords in my mind. There is on the far post, and she just can't get a foot to or she gets a foot to it, but it's outstretched. I know the broadcast was saying she should have dove with her head. I don't know if that would have been. I more put this blame on Rosso not hitting the greatest cross in a situation that was advantageous. Any thoughts on this play, Matt?
No, I think you hit it right on. But before you go on, I want to point out that in the 55th minute, when they were showing the kind of the ref from the side kind of back angle, I did notice that the disappearing foam spray is indeed flammable.
What?
It has a flammable substance on the can.
I thought there was like actual fire or something like that.
No, it had like dangerous substance warning.
Got it. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. I think anything that's aerosol, I think because of how it's actually sprayed, right? All right. Welcome to Bros Talking Science. Yeah. All right.
Well played, Kniddle.
Yes. 59th minute, there's just a terrible giveaway by Engen. For as good as a performance as she had, I had to call her out. She had a couple of these where, again, she's confident, but she'll sometimes make these errors. And Kerr finishes this off, and it's very fortunate, fortunate from a Norwegian perspective, but Kerr was just offside. So Engen plays the ball into, I'm not exactly sure who intercepts it, but she just passes it right to her about 30 yards from net. And Kerr makes a run in behind. She's about a yard offside, does very well to finish this with kind of the outside part of her foot / toe poke. It's an excellent finish. Ultimately was offside, which was the right call, but that's kind of a warning sign for Norway. I thought Rosso was the most involved attacker for Australia throughout her time on the pitch, and she's ultimately the first sub. What did you think about that, Matt?
So I thought it was silly because she did seem like she was having the most effect. This has kind of happened a fair amount. It's like managers have prearranged or preconceived subs, and they don't really adjust from their plan. I know they do, and maybe they were seeing something with Rosso that we didn't see, but I thought she was really, really, really good. And one thing I wanted to point out, I don't know when this happened. Frankly, my daughter pointed this out, was when they put Kerr out to the left and then moved Ford up top. What ended up happening was suddenly the attack had numbers, because before it was just kind of the Sam Kerr show. Let's serve it up to her and see what happens. With Ford being up there, she's strong, she's physical, she can play hold up, and then Rosso is incredibly quick, so she could either play the ball off to her or to the right or off to the left to Sam Kerr, and suddenly there was just more options in the attack. So
that's interesting. So I didn't note that specific tactical switch. I did know that Australia was doing better to get numbers into the box, and so maybe it coincided with this. And it's interesting because Ford was playing the whole match, so there must have been a tactical switch sometime around the 70th minute, possibly before then, when that started to happen. So that's a really good call out by your daughter. 76th minute, Australia has kind of a half chance, and Gelnick has an opportunity. She's the one running forward, and Yallop, the ball's coming over her head, and she's got a defender on her back, and she takes it basically off Gelnick's foot. Gelnick needed to call her off there. I wanted to highlight that. couple minutes later, Australia gets their equalizing goal. It's a corner kick driven to the near post by Kellen Knight. Nobody kind of touches it. Gelnick is in there. Engen's in there. I don't think it touches anyone. Curves in at the far post. And I'm someone who always preaches I want a player on each post. That Norway doesn't have someone on the back post. It skirts in, and it's tough for me to have any sympathy. I don't understand why this doesn't happen. I know people argue that it gives you more opportunities to win the ball if you have players out there, in the 18-yard box. But for me, in situations like that, where there are so many opportunities for the ball to get somewhere close to your goal, having more numbers on the line just makes sense. And so I'm always going to highlight things like that. Matt, what did you think about the goal?
So I thought it was really cool to watch. It was really nice to watch it bend in. I did wonder why there was somebody, at the very least, not on the back post. I do understand from a tactical standpoint that if you do have another player on the back post, then you are literally, by positioning, playing everybody on side on the attacking team. So that's another argument that I've heard.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I've
it's
heard that
very
too.
valid, but I think that there are far more goals saved by somebody on the back post than people get played on side and then they score from it. So
Exactly. And I mean, in order for someone to get called offside, I guess you need to either have a short corner play happen or there needs to be a flick at the near post. And so, again, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it saves more goals than ultimately allows. And so that's why I'm always going to be a proponent of putting someone on back post. Next kind of major event happened in the 88th minute. Tori's daughter, as the ball is bouncing and she comes through and she absolutely clatters into Yallop. She gets the slightest touch on the ball, and I think this goes to VAR. The ref doesn't go look at it, but they're discussing it, and ultimately this isn't actually reviewed by the center official. But Matt, did you think this was a penalty?
yeah, I mean, I thought it. I actually thought it was. So I was surprised that the ref didn't go look at it, but
And so why did you think it was a penalty?
just because she got the touch on her.
So even though she got the ball, even though she got the slightest touch on the ball, she really clatters into Yallop. And again, I think that you can make the argument that this was reckless play. And so I'm in agreement. I think that Australia could feel a bit hard done that this wasn't called a penalty here. Anything else?
No, yeah, it's. I was actually. I'm trying to remember the play exactly. I don't know. Sometimes I think I understand that, like, defenders have to go in after the ball, and their job is to get the ball away in any means by any means necessary. But going through a player to get the ball isn't necessarily forgivable. And then to get that kind of a weak touch on the ball, I don't know. I thought it probably should have been a penalty, but the ref didn't agree. So
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Last thing from the regular time, 93rd minute, Graham Hansen has the ball on the left side of the pitch. She cuts in, hits a curler from more or less the corner of the 18. It goes and hits the far post and rolls ever agonizingly across the line. Doesn't go in, but it was a hell of a shot by Graham Hansen. And then full time is blown. Any thoughts from the game, Matt, before we talk about extra time?
no.
All right, so 92nd minute again, because now we're into extra time. So second minute of extra time, there's a ball over the top by Kerr, and Tori's daughter gets back and just shoulders her off the ball. I thought Kerr went to ground, number one, a little bit too easy here, and number two, she should have taken the shot a little bit earlier, and she allowed Tori's daughter to get back into position and this play to happen. It doesn't go to VAR or anything like that, but Matt, what did you think about this play?
Well, that's kind of Kerr's part of her game. It's she goes to ground really easy and then looks for fouls all the time. I mean, she's a world-class striker. That's part of the world-class striker arsenal. I do think she missed a chance to score. She could have possibly put her team ahead and then pulled it out without going to penalties. But yeah.
And kind of on that front, Jeff has a comment here on YouTube. He said because of VAR, he thinks players are looking for penalties more on the off chance of it actually being given because of VAR, and he thinks that's a worrying development. What do you think about that, Matt? Do you think players are diving more because of VAR?
I don't know if they're diving more because of VAR, but I did consider that as well. Like maybe this is what we have to look forward to or what we have to look forward to in the future. So
I'm in agreement. I don't think they're necessarily diving more. That's always been a case. If anything, I think that they're probably diving less It's just, I think you could make the argument they're embellishing more where they have slate contact. Now they know with VAR, it's going to look a lot worse on video if they see a contact is made and then they go down. It's going to look like there actually was a foul. So there might be a case for that. But straight up diving when there's no contact, I think the inverse is true. I think players are less likely to do that because of VAR. That's where I come down on it. 93rd minute, there's some good combo play between Graham Hansen and Wrighton. And Graham Hansen just takes an extra touch at the top of the box. She needed to hit it first time. Her shot was ultimately blocked. And then the Lydia Williams, I know her name's the goalkeeper's name is Williams. Do you remember her first name?
Lydia, yeah.
Yeah, then it's the Lydia Williams show because she just keeps Australia in this game. 95th minute, she has a great save on a Boa Risa shot from distance. And then the 99th minute, Australia has a chance ended by Tori's daughter. Norway comes the other way. Graham Hansen drives at Kennedy and just basically beats her for pace and is one-on-one more or less with Williams. And Williams does well to make a reaction save. And it was just excellent play by Williams on these two saves here in the 95th and 99th minute. And then drama. 104th minute, Kennedy, the Australian center back, is issued a red card. So there's a ball in behind and Utland is running onto it, and both players are sort of grabbing at each other. I will say Kennedy probably has a little bit more jersey, and Utland is right to go down here, but the ball is pretty far in front of the two players, and Williams is rushing out. I did not think that Utland was going to be able to get to this. Referee thought differently, ultimately issues a red card for denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. Matt, what did you think about this play? Should it have been a red?
I don't think it should have been a red. I thought it was overly harsh. I didn't think that Utland was going to get to the ball. There wasn't a chance for it. At least I can see the case that the ref made, but it was harsh. I mean, I'm not really a fan of like let the players play and be brutal, but yeah, it was Kennedy, right? Yeah, she wasn't being overly physical or anything. She just grabbed her jersey, and yeah, I understand that that's a foul. Or could be a foul, but they were both pushing on each other, and so I just thought it was harsh.
I agree. I thought, number one, I didn't think Utland was getting to the ball anyways, and number two, I thought it was harsh. I thought both players were kind of grabbing at it. I thought a yellow and a foul was more than sufficient, and so I was surprised that nothing changed. Did this go to an actual VAR review where she looked at it? I feel like, and then she kept it.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, so I was even more surprised at that.
Another thing, kind of for foreshadowing, Alana Kennedy takes some penalty kicks when she plays for, I believe it's Houston in the NWSL. So
that's a good point. Yeah, earlier in the match, I noted that it was odd that Kellen Knight and Kennedy were the two players standing over a free kick, and both of them are defenders. And so, that is foreshadowing because Australia did not do well on their penalties. Last notes I have from regulation, including extra time, players just looked absolutely exhausted by the end of that game on both sides of the ball. Wrighton specifically had a number of chances where she just couldn't get her, she just didn't have the energy to put it on net. So then it goes to penalty kicks. Really unfortunate for any other thoughts before we talk about penalties, Matt?
No.
Okay. Goes to penalties. Norway converts their kicks and Australia does not. I mean, that's more or less what happens there. It's really unfortunate. Kerr misses her initial kick and then Yelnick has hers saved. Meanwhile, on the Norwegian side, Caroline Gro Hansen steps up, converts hers. Wrighton converts hers. Mjelde converts hers. And then Engen scores, ends it 4-1 because Catley came up and did get one for Australia. But Norway goes through 4-1 on penalties, 1-1 as the regulation score. Matt, final thoughts from this game?
The only thing I have to say is that Kerr penalty attempt was pure comedy. I mean,
yeah, it was bad.
It was so bad. I'm impressed with how well she maintained her composure walking back to her teammates. It was like, I felt really bad for her because that was a terrible way to go out of the World Cup. I mean, just the worst way.
Yeah, especially just to not hit the target. That's the one thing you can control is hitting the target. If the goalkeeper dives the right way and makes a save, it is what it is. But when you miss the target, it's really rough, and you feel for her because she has so much pressure on her, and she had a relatively good World Cup. This match, it was up and down a little bit, but she fought hard, and you hate to see that, especially just it wasn't like it hit the post. I mean, that just didn't even have a chance. So really unfortunate there. Yeah, really unfortunate there. I do want to shout out Patrick, is a big fan of Carolyn Graham Hansen. He thought she
Oh,
was
cool.
really good in this match. I thought that she was pretty good. I thought early on she was trying to do too much, and then as the game wore on, she I think still was trying to do too much, but she could do it. Whereas early on, I think Australia maybe had a little bit more energy and maybe could shut her down. As the game wore on, she was dribbling by players, hitting really good passes, and I've been a fan of hers since the first matches at the World Cup. Also, Patrick says if Hegerberg or Hegerberg was on
Hegerberg,
this
yeah.
team at striker, what would it be like? I mean, yeah, it'd be very good. They might be a world power, but she hasn't played for 2 years, and I know the Norwegians just have moved past it. Matt, what was your save of the day?
Well, initially it was going to be the 95th minute save by Williams off the long range shot because that is a golden save. But really, it's the 99th minute save from Williams off the counter. That was just such a great, fantastic reaction save.
So those were my two. I'll take the 95th one because she had to do a little bit more on that one, and the 95th and 99th minute one was a little bit more reaction, whereas the 95th was a little bit more technical. She actually had to get her feet right, get her hand up, tip it over the bar, and so I'll take that. But either of these would have been my correct answer. Matt, what was your goal of the day?
My goal today was the Norway goal because it was gorgeous.
Yep, correct answer. Yet again, excellent play out of the back. And it all starts with a fantastic defensive play by Mjelde. Comes the other way, gets into eventually Engen. Fantastic curveball out wide. Savic, curved ball in behind. Herlovsen does well to settle and then curve it around Williams. Excellent goal for Norway. Matt, what was your moment of the day?
Just Nigeria being in the knockout round. I realized it was very painful. It was a very painful loss. But just to watch them try to progress and evolve and mature as a national side was it was a pleasure. Even though I didn't enjoy watching them, it was a pleasure watching them try to move forward and get better. So that's my moment of the day.
My moment of the day is the Engen penalty. So I have already harped on how good I thought that she was. She's been fantastic throughout this World Cup, but I thought she played very well today. And then to get the penalty to send Norway through, that has to be my moment of the day. Let's talk about the matches that are happening tomorrow. We got two more matches. We have England taking on Cameroon at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Then we have France versus Brazil at 3 p.m. Matt, what's going to happen in England, Cameroon?
3-1 for England. They're just going to win. They're better. They're more technical. They don't lack. England does not lack for speed. They're more organized. Phil Neville's more tactical. They're just better, comprehensively better. Except for maybe they don't have as much speed, but that's the only thing.
I'm going to agree with you there, and I'll say Cameroon doesn't get a goal. I'll say it ends 2 or 3-0 to England. Not much else to add from my perspective, but France versus Brazil is a really interesting matchup because France came through and they're playing the third place team from, I think it was Group D that Brazil was in. It might have been C. And I don't think that they were expecting to play Brazil in this round of 16. But Matt, what do you think is going to happen there?
I kind of have a feeling that this is going to be a wild one. So I believe it's going to end up something like 4-2 for France. That's where I see this going because Brazil's defense is really porous. It's pretty leaky. But going forward, they've shown a lot of flash. They've shown a lot of ability. They've shown a lot. They're clinical. Cristiane has been around since at least the 2003 World Cup. And I think that they're going to do pretty well. This is a danger round for France. Brazil could actually, even though they're not a fantastic team, they could surprise France. So I think France has to be careful.
Oh, I'm in agreement here. So Brazil came out of Group C, just to clarify that one. I couldn't really see this being a trap game for France. You could see when Norway actually challenged them that France, you saw some nerves, and that could play a role in all of this. Brazil's not going to be a rollover. I think it's really going to hurt them to be missing Andresa, again, a creative sort of attacking option, but they have other ones. The Bina has been really good, though she hasn't really been clinical in the final third. And if France is challenged, I could see this going to extra time and being really, really nervy. I have to give France the edge because I still think that they're more talented and home field advantage, but that can work both ways. If France gives up an early goal or if it's still tied late in the match, that home crowd could turn into nervous energy and that could weigh on the players. So that's something to really keep an eye on here. And this is certainly no walkover. Again, I'm going to give the slight edge to France, but it's going to be a 1-goal game, maybe even penalties or extra time deciding it. Matt, who is the one player you're looking out for tomorrow?
Christiane. If she has a good game, then it's on for Brazil.
All right. Similarly, I'm looking out for Formiga, Brazilian center midfielder. She wasn't there in their third group stage game, and basically Brazil broke down against Australia once she was removed from the lineup. She's going to be back and is certainly no pushover. Her positioning is so solid. She's a possession outlet in the middle of the park, and so she's going to be really influential for Brazil if they're going to get a result tomorrow, or at least keep it close. So I'm going to have my eye out for her. Matt, anything else you would like to add for today's podcast?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody who has listened. If you joined us live, Jeff and Patrick specifically, thank you for joining and interacting with us as we've recorded here. Podcast listeners, thank you for being here. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review on iTunes. 5-star reviews really help us out, and we would greatly appreciate that. You can find us on Twitter at BT Soccer Pod. Matt, what's your Twitter? I don't know where that accent just came from.
It's at Northwood Guitar, all one word. So yeah.
All right, so go follow Matt there. If you want to email us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Check out our website, brostalkingsoccer.com. You can read about ourselves. You can check out past episodes. You can see some of our YouTube videos. So we record live on YouTube, and then we do some MLS videos. MLS is back, so we have some new Quick Kick Picks videos on there. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Matt, thank you for being here and chatting with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, and we will be back tomorrow to recap day 17 of the 2019 World Cup. Have a good one. See you, everybody. I don't know, Jeff, I don't know what this comment means. Cheers, guys. Thanks. Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Any idea what the heck that means?
It's just happiness from the movie. I'm not sure.
All right, Jeff, we don't understand that. I guess follow up with us on Twitter if you want to clarify that comment. And yeah, thank you guys, Patrick and Jeff. Thank you both for being here and interacting with us. We always appreciate it. Have a good one. See you, everybody.